Anthros. Are you ready to popularize anthropology? Well, it's time to meet the new AAA team. Here's Dr. Daniel Miller, Dr. John Hott, Natalia Reagan, Dr. Dylan Kerrigan, Dr. Paul Mullins, and Dr. David Slattery to share their experiences with bringing anthropology to the mainstream.
Anthropologists need to ask themselves a question. Is this a subject which is about helping people to understand each other? Or is it just about anthropologists helping to understand other anthropologists? Or worse still, is an anthropologist trying to get jobs by appearing to be clever by trying to write things not even other anthropologists can understand?
I think it's very important for anthropologists to make things public because we provide a sort of lens and a piece of information and a kind of form of critical thinking that you don't really get in the normal sort of press.
For me, anthropology is about having and engaging one's curiosity about human experience, life, all the different things we do. The fact that there are Elvis Presley impersonators out there, and the fact that we have ancient rituals, cave art, and I think all of that comes together.
Most of us come into anthropology with at least some kind of welfare intention. That we want the work we do to genuinely enhance people's lives, and unless you actually reach out to people, unless you have a medium to do that, that's simply not going to happen.
I know that anthropology gives an enormously helpful perspective on how we relate to each other, how we relate to other cultures around the world. And everything that I can do to make it easier for people to understand what makes us human, what we share as humans, and what's normal when we look at the variability among humans, that gives people a perspective that I think we owe it as professionals to give people.
I had never made that distinction between making anthropology for the public as opposed to making it for somebody else, in which I assume the what's implicitly being argued there is that we've been making it for the academy and for a circle of scholars. You know, so the conversation I have at a AAA conference during a paper is different than I might have on a blog, but I actually think substantively the material is very easy to translate from one place to the next, and I don't think the translation is all that complicated, to be honest.
I like humor, and I tried for years to be serious and failed. So I decided to give in and kind of embrace my humor. I write books, I write humorous books, and I like to, if you like, suck the audience in and give them a serious message heavily disguised in the humorous situations.
So becoming, as it were, popular in the sense of wanting your material to go out to popular audiences was really a process of unlearning the training I originally had, which kind of took decades, because most of my earlier writing is writing that I think was obscure. Now, I don't think it means that I have become in any way less academically ambitious or theoretical. So the key shift has not been actually a shift in medium. I was writing books then, I'm writing books now. It was simply trying to develop a style that was relatively clear, that essentially avoided obfuscation, and increasingly used a language that people outside of anthropology could recognize.
You know, I work in a field where the fossil evidence for humans is sometimes very secret. Sometimes you won't be able to see something until years after it's excavated. And I feel like we should do as much as we can to make that accessible to people.
I do a couple things. I produce comedy science videos, so I use comedy to explain scientific concepts like the evolution of breasts in women, or why monkeys make horrible pets, why do humans have butts. I am co-founder of a website called Boas Network. My partner, Dr. Kahanya Groff, and I created Boas, which is a tip of the hat to Franz Boas, and also an acronym for Broadening of Anthropology Spectrum. We created this website to allow anthropologists a voice and an opportunity to showcase their work via videos. So I'd go to different conferences, whether it's the AAA or the AAPAs, and I chase after anthropologists, I tackle them, and I beg them for an interview. And I cut together the videos to make them engaging, fun, and humorous. So basically the mainstream gets to see the fun, exciting, and the lighter side of anthropology, and hopefully inspire future anthropologists.
I'd like to see anthropology students being trained to contribute to non-anthropological fields rather than explicitly anthropological fields.
The writing that we do for the public is vastly more important than the writing we do in academic journals. Even though academic journals give us the command of the issues that we're interested in and show that we're competent to handle those issues, we need to translate from that level to a more popular level. And the more we do it, the more influence we'll have, and the more that our work will be seen as central to understanding where we're going.
I think actually part of the dilemma for many of us as scholars is that when we're trained to think of scholarship as a very, very different discourse than what we have on the street or in the grocery store or in the hallways at the university. I really strongly believe that if you and I are interested in it, if something matters to us and it's meaningful, whether it seems prosaic or stupid or shallow or deep or anything else, then it should be a scholarly subject.
Well, one of the first things I had to do was develop my writing voice, because your popular anthropology voice will be distinct. You can't really get away with the sort of obtuse and dense nature of academic speak. So you need to develop that writing voice. So one of the things I did was I pitched a few columns to friends and colleagues, family, to try and get some ideas of what worked, what didn't work. I learned that I was trying and put too much into a column.
Going back to what I was saying about playing to your strengths and weaknesses and tone. Tone is very, very important, I think, in popular anthropology. And then I would advise anyone to look at what they're good or bad at, look at what their interests are, and look at what their strengths are. And instead of trying to say, what is the so-called anthropological marketplace looking for, to say, well, what can I bring to that marketplace? An advice I give you with any talk or concern of popular anthropology is audience. Popular anthropology is produced for some audience somewhere. So be mindful of the audience. If you like what you're doing yourself, you'll find another person out there.
I would love to see people of all ages to get involved in popular anthropology, including those that are, esteemed anthropologists and those that are just starting out, those in their undergrad years, beginning their grad school years, because I feel like we can learn a lot from one another. Even those that are just coming up, even though they might not be considered experts in their field, they still have a voice, and they can teach those that have been doing it for 20 or 30 years, just like somebody who's been doing it for their whole life can teach them.